for the April meeting of the Delaware County Jail Oversight Board. Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Joining us virtually today is Judge Pagano. Your Honor, can you just confirm that you hear us?
I do hear you.
Thank you, sir. And the other housekeeping up front is I did want to mention that we had an executive session yesterday, per usual. During the executive session, the board discussed matters related to construction ongoing at the George W. Hill Correctional Facility, matters related to physical security at the prison, related to personnel, all of which related to protection of public safety, which if disclosed would be reasonably likely to jeopardize or threaten public safety preparedness or protection. With that, we'll move on to the next item, which is our first round of public comment. For those who would like to address the board, please do so at this time. There are 2 rounds as usual. This one can be limited to items that are just on the agenda for consideration this afternoon. The second round can be for items that are more generally attributable to the jail. So if there's anyone who would like to come forth, please do so now. Hearing none, we'll move on to an approval of the minutes from last month's meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve.
Thank you, Sheriff Sanders. Do we have a second? All right. We'll go with the Executive Director O'Malley on that one. Motion is second. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And then next, we'll take a motion to approve the reports from last month's meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the reports from the last meeting.
Thank you, Controller Phillips. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, Executive Director. Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right. The Executive Director's report for today.
Yes, I just had one item. I wanted to mention that at the last meeting, we had talked about wanting the Jail Oversight Board to have more interaction and hear directly from all levels of staff at the facility. And in working with the warden, we will be selecting dates in May, August, and November at times to hear from various shifts and at dates that will be convenient for most of our Jail Oversight Board to attend. So our goal is to get those dates selected by next week, so we can give plenty of advance notice for staff to attend those meetings. So again, we are very interested in hearing the perspective of people working in the facility, all various levels on any kind of issue. Our role here involves the complete and safe operation of the facility, and obviously the staff there is critical to that function and want to hear directly from them. So looking forward to getting those sessions set up.
Thank you, Director O'Malley. Moving on to the Warden's report. Warden Williams.
Thank you very much. And good afternoon, board. Oh, where'd it go, Sean? Okay. Well, as we are waiting, I will start the presentation. Unfortunately, this is the 4th time as the warden that I've had to make a tragic announcement, of a loss of one of our staff members. This one's particularly fresh because it just occurred a few days ago, but we lost our Chief Deputy Warden, Adam Smith, at the young age of 36 years old. And you can see on the slide a history of his career and what he's contributed in the field of corrections. I wanted to especially acknowledge and thank the Pennsylvania County Corrections Association. They started their spring conference on Sunday, which was unfortunately the day that he had passed. And I did know several attendees. Unfortunately, nobody from our agency had been scheduled to attend, but they did announce at the opening dinner and had a moment of silence for him to honor him and his contributions. He's been a longstanding member of PCCA and PPWA and has worked in 3 different facilities in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, has attended DOC training certification programs as well. And so he's pretty well known throughout the state. And we have received an outpouring of support from our correctional partners, these professional organizations, as well as the Department of Corrections. And so I wanted to publicly thank everybody for providing that support to our agency. I will be extending those to his family this week when he is laid to rest.
Warden, before you move on, I wanted to just reiterate the condolences and the sadness of this loss. As you know, Adam fought hard over the past several months. Just the bravery that he continued to show. I know that he was someone who you worked closely with over 2 places, and just what the loss means to you and to the entire team. But it's just to say it's sad is an understatement. Such a young person who was so dedicated to his service. My condolences to his family and to his friends and to his coworkers.
Thank you.
I'm really sorry.
And I appreciate the board asking ways that they can support the family. I think that even that extension of support is incredibly, it was received very graciously by the family. So thank you very much for keeping all of us in your thoughts. For our monthly statistics, as of this morning, our population was 1,059, and I have to say we are trending in the right direction. This was a decrease of 43 from the last month, and we have openly stated multiple times, so I want to thank the courts, even if they may not be doing anything truly different, something is happening, something is changing, we're seeing progress, and I think when we acknowledge that, it reinforces what we would like to continue to see. And so smaller numbers are more manageable for us as our agency is going through a number of these capital investment projects. So a lower population is certainly something that helps assist us during this very complex time that we'll be going through. Our Weekender program, we had 18 participants. Last month was 16. 12 of the 18 were first timers, 6 were female. 516 commitments with 528 discharges. And there were very rare occasions in which we did not offer full recreation to the housing units. You can see those indicated here. All of these were related to events that happened on the housing units which required an additional security measure, such as a search or a shakedown. And so that was the cause for those recreation being withheld during those shifts. Our gender populations, as well as our pretrial versus sentenced, are remaining the same. But again, those statistics are available in that kind of center quadrant where we have the actual total numbers. So our point in time on March 1, we had 1,123 in custody. And so from then until today's date, you can see that we've had a change and shift in the population. Again, with our age population as well as race and ethnicity trends, we're not seeing a significant difference. These are going to be pretty stable throughout the time periods. With the exception of in January, you can see the age group of 45 to 54 was much higher than it typically is. And so blue on both of these graphs is January, orange is February, and gray is March. This is where we are seeing a shift in trend, though it is pretty, it's still been climbing, generally speaking. So even though our population is down, you can see that we actually have more inmates by percentage who are prescribed medications. The incidence rates of those that have any mental illness is increasing, as well as those with serious mental illness. And this is something that we typically see industry-wide as a trend as we start entering these spring and summer months. I can't really explain it. I don't know what the cause as is, but it is something that we tend to see during these spring and summer months where there is an increase in those that experience mental illness or crises of that level. We were able to induct 16 patients to MAT again in this month. And Councilman Madden, you look like you have a question, so I wanted to pause.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think the number that jumps off the page is the percentage with severe mental illnesses to go from 35% to 52% in 2 months. And there's always a danger in reading too much into one singular data point in 1 month, but that is such a significant rise, both in absolute numbers up from 403 to 572. And then since the overall population is down, an even bigger increase in percentage, that it makes you wonder if there's any change in, the way in which things are being evaluated, that, is there any change perhaps in, how it's being determined, who might be doing the determination, anything you can speak to there? Or do you really think that it could truly be an actual trend that maybe is just seasonal, but again, it's just a really high increase?
I do think that this is, so we do evaluations independently at the agency, but we're also utilizing information that comes from the community. So at time of intake, we have the capacity to do medication verification. When we're doing that, we're also reaching out to treatment providers, especially if we don't have a history on that person, so that we can start to better contextualize who they are and what their needs might be. I can say that this is something that typically trends. What I did not look into, and I had previously, when we were seeing these climbs, what is happening in some of the areas that may or may not be receiving access to care. And so I know that we've talked previously about efforts on Kensington, when we've seen a large influx of individuals come to us with mental health concerns and or substance use disorders. We usually see a spike anytime they're doing a lot of activity in those areas. I don't know if there are limited access to care as it relates to Crozier and people just not really engaging in services in the community. And so I think you're right. Looking at one singular data point could be not helpful to us, but we are over the last 3 months, and that's why I included them, step by step increasing each month. And so this could be both seasonal, it could be access to care issues, it could be just a higher incidence of the individuals coming into custody right now that have comorbidities with mental health disorders. So I don't know. I think we should continue to look at it. But for purposes and intention of the jail oversight boards, when we think about how resources are spent in the institution, whether it's staffing or medication costs, it's important for us to be able to evaluate these numbers and know that they're going to impact the operations of the institution, and that they might also impact incidences that we have in the institution, as well as costs. For our medications for opioid use disorder, this one was not such a large increase. So we're at 17.75% of our population engaged in some form of medication for opioid use disorder, with 188 currently today enrolled. That was only a slight increase. I believe last month was around 17.42% or thereabouts. So we've stayed pretty consistent on that. Continuations, of course, are the largest driver for us. So these are individuals who are coming into our custody who are already on a clinically approved medication regimen. We are verifying that upon their time in intake, and we're continuing them on that medication. The inductions is when we are identifying somebody who is demonstrating clinical eligibility upon their admission to our institution, and they are then placed on a protocol to switch from their detox into one of the FDA-approved forms of medications for opioid use disorder. For employees of the month, and I wanted to acknowledge we're officially 3 years as well into our county transition, which has certainly come with some bumps and bruises along the way, but it's also really cool about how this transition has continued. And so I wanted to really highlight the number of staff that we have with more than 20 years of service that we're celebrating this month. And so we have well, this is the number one years of service in the entire agency is Officer John Smarcola. And so he's already received, well, he's already achieved, I should say, his 46 years of service. Mailroom Supervisor Brian Conley with 29 years, Senior Case Manager Michael Hennigan with 29 years, Laundry Coordinator Sandra Jacobs with 29 years, Case Manager Michael Schenk with 29 years, Operations Technician Stephen Young, 29 years, Deputy Warden Lisa Mastrodi, 24 years, Officer Shakiva Motley, 21 years. We also have Supply Coordinator Ernest Ado, 20 years, Officer Kim Wynn, 20 years, Mailroom Technician Darla Morgan, 23 years, and Purchasing Manager Zakia Butler, 23 years. And to spend more than 2 decades working in an institution is not really very common, but we had a very large representation. And that is not to exclude all of the other names that are on this slide. And again, while we have a number of employees who are starting to gain more years of committed service to this agency, these are individuals who typically transferred maybe through 1, 2, or 3 different employers and are still serving Delaware County. And so definitely wanted to shout out those individuals this month. Wanted to also, this is a typo, it should be our April employees of the month, are Demir Christopher, Correctional Officer, Maureen Lipsky, Correctional Officer, and Dennis Starkey, Sergeant. So congratulations to all of those individuals for their service. You can see in the photo, we have Class 225A, and thank you to Controller Phillips for attending this most recent graduation. Former JOB member, Judge Amoroso, administered the oath to our correctional officers. We did begin a class on March 31st, and our next graduation is April 11th, which is this Friday. We're recruiting for our next class on April 28th. And this Friday, we are also going to be acknowledging the completed, I know I announced the promotions last month of 3 of our sergeants. They will have fully completed their training and be recognized at this month's graduation as well. As mentioned earlier when talking about the importance of a lower population, we are an open construction zone. And for those that are publicly watching, I want to say, please be rest assured that we are still open for business. We do still want social visits and support of families to come and meet with their incarcerated persons. We have not made any alterations to those schedules. We do have areas really in the rear of the facility that are impacted more. Once we get closer to any other areas in which the public might be impacted, we will certainly make those communications out in advance. And so we've been working on the HVAC roof project, and we have officially started within the secure facility. They've completed interior and exterior work. We did our largest crane roof to date on last Wednesday, the 2nd. All was successful in getting the previous units off of the institution and the new units on, and they are still working on finalizing that housing unit before we will progress to the next. I also wanted to reiterate that we will not have a population living in an area, nor will we have staff where we don't have working circulatory air. And so I wanted to be sure that everybody is well advised that we will be making a multitude of adjustments within the institution and in accordance with our safety protocols to ensure that people have access to what they need to throughout this entire construction project. We are still working towards site mobilization for the larger security systems project. And I also wanted to bring up, this was something that was mentioned last month by Judge Pagano. Our agency is working, bless you, to incorporate recommendations as we've learned through the Scandinavian prison models. And the closest example of that, many people, I think there's been a lot of different publication on it, is SCI Chester. And I had the privilege for Superintendent Clark as well as Deputy Superintendent Bowman, who allowed me to come on site to SCI Chester and really experience the housing unit. Our hope is that we're going to be able to incorporate aesthetic environmental changes as we're working through this larger project. Now, it wasn't officially approved as part of the budget, but we have some very creative solutions that we're going to be able to make changes to the environment to not deinstitutionalize, but to soften. And the promotion of this is to really help both staff as well as employees in terms of wellness. The environment has a significant impact. There's an enormous amount of research that tells us that. And so we want to do what we can within our budget and our means to make sure that we are capitalizing on the opportunity that we have right now as we're closing down housing units. We are going to be converting one of our housing units in the future to a behavioral health and reentry unit. Now, this is going to be done towards the final completion of the project because the priority right now is to enhance the security measures within the institution, providing a better environment for both our staff as well as the incarcerated population. But this unit will promote structured programming, discharge planning, increased skill building for successful reintegration. And when I say reintegration at the county level, that means a number of different things. This could be preparing people for release to the community, transfer to another agency, which might be a state correctional institution, or another county agency, a community treatment provider, or even general population within the institution, because our objective is to stabilize those that might be in crisis, to achieve a better level of competency, capability, and health. So we're very much looking forward to that. I've appreciated so much the advocacy from Judge Pagano. He has introduced me and linked me to the researchers and professors who have been doing a lot of the work locally and encouraging other agencies to really onboard a lot of the lessons that have been learned from SCI Chester. So I wanted to pause there because I'm nearly certain, but I don't want to put him on the spot, that Judge Pagano might have a little bit more to offer on this topic.
Well, I thank you for being open to the possibility of trying to incorporate as much of the concept of SCI Chester as we can into our local facility. Obviously, our facility is different than a state facility. We have a lot of people who are awaiting trial. The vast majority are. And so it's a different situation. But I do believe, like you suggested, that we can make changes to the environment of our prison, which will make it more tolerable and humane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you move forward, I want to echo your thanks to Judge Pagano. Judge Pagano, as you said, it is a different environment than a state facility, and so we can't really incorporate all of the elements of the Scandinavian model in a county jail. But your advocacy for thinking creatively about how to integrate some of the facets of it as we go through this really good opportunity to do so as we're doing such a huge overhaul in the infrastructure has been really important and valuable. So I want to thank you for your efforts there. And I also, just on a more general matter, want to acknowledge the personal excitement I have that these projects are getting underway. It's not going to be quick. It's going to be a multi-year process to see these through. But, I think, and this is true anywhere, but certainly in a corrections environment, your surroundings, your infrastructure, your environment drives so much of the positives or negatives that people experience, whether they're, employees or their residents. And oftentimes, a very high number of the concerns that we hear, when you really look at it, it stems from an issue with regards to our infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Nobody likes to work in a situation where the HVAC isn't working when it needs to, or there are leaks, or there are other challenges that we've talked about that really arise every single day here. And you mentioned that we hit the 3-year mark on the transition. I'm sure some might say, why didn't this happen sooner? But I really want to underline something we've said before. To get to the point where you have this all mapped out, where we have made a full assessment of what needed to be addressed and how, and the sequencing in which it needs to occur so that in a secure environment, you maintain security. That is not easy. And to ensure that we have the right people doing various facets of this, that they, we run through a process that is respectful of the taxpayer dollar, and the fact that it's going to be done right. That's not something that happens overnight. So this is really exciting. People are going to, just because it might be a little while until this is all complete, there are going to be facets of this that, people are going to see fairly soon. I appreciate that the HVAC system is being front-ended, and that as we go into the more challenging summer months, expectation is really that a great deal of the more challenging parts of the HVAC system are going to be addressed already. So, it's to say it a milestone when it's also something that's long-term is probably not the right word, but it is a milestone and a positive one.
Thank you.
And just lastly on that, I want to thank Warden, I want to thank you and the team, including from the county, the folks who have really helped to ensure that we get this process underway the right way. So thank you.
And I just want to piggyback on that because I think that while it's taken quite a bit of time for planning and preparation, that is ongoing and continuous. And so we have a multitude of meetings every single week in which we've engaged several different county agencies and partners, as well as staff that have, this is in addition to their typical job at the agency. So Joe McCreary, who is one of our point persons, Steve Young, Dan Ryder, as well as Deputy Warden Bonds, I wouldn't be able to facilitate these projects without having their continuous support in attending some of those meetings because they frequently do overlap. And there's a lot of decisions that need to be made and communication that will need to come out. And that is going to be a lot of resource-driven time. So to the staff who have not yet gotten updates, that's because we're almost there. And then as soon as we start moving in areas, they're going to be getting more frequent communication. Finally, in terms of the capital improvements and projects, and this is another one that we have support from the Delaware County Public Works Department. We're working to coordinate an actual day in which we're mobilizing for the farm shop roof repair, and that is tentatively scheduled for next week. And so wanted to make sure that the board knew that. I should be able to, by next month, give a full status update on that project. We're just waiting to confirm with the awardee.
Change pages. This might just be a good place to pause and see if there are any other questions or comments from board members. All right. Thank you, Warden.
So the final slide for my presentation is, updating on the cost recovery items. So as we did last month, we did another stipend from the $25 from the account. Again, wanted to make sure that we're providing updates to the board on this, and it will be to the board to determine whether or not we want to make any adjustments of this. So this is simply just giving dollar numbers. There are a multitude of reports that we might be able to provide to you in order to better evaluate, is this enough? Is it just the right amount? Do we want to increase it? And we could be able to see that in some of the trending spending habits of the incarcerated population when they're receiving the $25. We've done some additional work to notify the population of this. That was feedback that we received that not everybody was aware. And so I think we're going to have to continuously educate as people are coming into the institution. This will also likely be incorporated with within the incarcerated person handbook as well, so that people have an understanding of this. Because I do think the feedback we received was fair. Not everybody was aware of this. And so that is helpful to us to make this a better process.
Warden, so just,
I was just going to say, what's the general feedback for the program for those that know about it?
I haven't received a negative comment.
Okay.
It's been very well received.
Well received.
Yes.
so if I'm reading this right, in the month, 23,000 was deposited as far as stipends out of 60, 61,000. It would have been 61,000, but not for the stipend, right? So there was still net of the stipend.
Yes,
$38,000 of net increase to the inmate welfare fund.
yes.
Did I say that right? So, okay.
It's still a very healthy.
Yeah, it's still a very healthy number. So I think let's perhaps give this a couple more months. In my opinion, I welcome other differing opinions on the board, but perhaps we give that a few more months to learn more about not just what the math is going to show, because I think the math is probably not going to change trend wise, but perhaps just to give a few more months of hearing if there's feedback around the program where it can be improved, so that any changes to it, we get that right.
And we are going to be discussing this at the next block rep meeting as well to gain some more direct and pointed feedback from the population. So as always, board members are welcome to attend the block rep meeting. If anybody does not have that on the calendar, because I know that invite was a bit of a challenge, please let me know. You don't have to do so now, and we'll make sure that we extend that to you once again. If there is nothing further from me at this present time, I will pass this over to Deputy Warden Fowley. But as always, I'm here for additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden Williams. Good evening, GOB members, those online and in public. This report is our first quarterly daily population report. So every quarter we're gonna look behind the last quarter to see how in form of data. Our average daily population is during this quarter is 1,115. We have committed 1,416 individuals be committed and 1509 was discharged. However, we have a 63% recommitted rate. During this quarter, we averaged 3 youthful offenders. The 63% recommitted rate is kind of mirrored last year's data as well for 2024 and 2023. Our GED passing rate for this quarter is 56%. It was a slight decrease from 2024, which was 64%. And also understand we're still in the beginning of the year, so I'm looking forward to increase. Currently, we have 49 newly IP that enrolled into the GED program. Just a friendly reminder that our second annual career fair resource is scheduled for this April 24th, 2025, between 12:30 and 3:30. Last year, we had the same thing where we had Corey-friendly employer and resources that came to the facility to provide resources to our incarcerated persons who are getting released from the facility. So we're going to do it again this year. Any Corey-friendly vendors who are interested to provide to advertise their resources, please reach out to Joan Skruski or Keith Moore from EDSI. Joan Skruski email is skruski, SKURSKIJ@co.delaware.pa.us, and Keith Moore from EDSI, his email address is kmoore, MOORE @edsi.com. % of our population participate in some form of religious services during this quarter. During this quarter, the incarcerated person had the opportunity to observe Ramadan. We had 144 IPs that participated in Ramadan and 144 IPs who participated in the Eid al-Fitr feast. We receive some religious reading material as well as Quran from board member Mr. King. It's safe to all the 64 Quran has been distributed, and thank you for your donation. Also, the IPs had the chance to and the staff also had the chance to participate Hatch Wednesday in the beginning of the Lent season. I'd like to thank the partnership that we have with St. Catholic Drexel, as well as the Nativity Blessed Virgin Mary Church. At the end of this presentation, after Kelly Shaw, Ms. Pat O'Brien will talk more about the substance use program. So I'm not going to talk about those data, but this data has to do with the grievances. During this quarter, the facility received 632 grievances, and 88 of them were unfounded. Unfounded meaning that whatever they was not agreeable. Some request for information was not valid. Out of the request for information, only 12% went into the grievance, in the grievance component, and we looked at, and it was resolved. Before I pass it to Ms. Shaw, I just want to let you guys know we're also hiring. So anybody that's looking for any type of job, please visit our website. We're seeking 2 additional case manager, 1 substance use counselor, and we also are recruiting for the SGB grant and a wellness instructor. Before I pass it, any questions?
Yes, I did have a question on the grievances slide. So I noticed one of the highest ones that moved on to a grievance is in the housing unit. Do we feel like most of those complaints will be resolved once the work that is being done now is completed?
Some of them will be resolved. I don't know exactly the specific of the housing issue. It's just more, it just fell under the category of housing.
No, I think I'd be interested in seeing exactly kind of what that breaks out,
Okay.
the type of complaints, and to see if it would be addressed by the work that we're doing and see if there's anything else perhaps that needs to be done or we can incorporate in what's happening now.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
My question happens to be in the exact same area in reference to the grievance. If I'm not mistaken, you said that 88% was either resolved or was it not valid? Which one?
Oh, so 88% of the grievance were unfounded. So meaning that an IP might say, hey, some money got taken out of my commissary and I don't know why, right? So they'll file a grievance. So when it gets, so what we'll do is we'll go to accounting, we'll look at the video transaction, we'll look at if anything was deducted. And if he or she is right, we'll say, okay, you're right. There was some deduction, but we have no clue where it is. But if we see that he or she made a video call, that will be found unvalid.
So are you saying that most of your grievances are because of finances and not interaction with guards or with?
It ranges. It ranges from commissary, from food services, from health services, from housing. It just ranges from different categories.
Okay. Do you have any grievances in reference to personalities or interactions with other inmates?
Personalities or interactions with other inmates? Not really.
Yes,
So
I'm.
the grievance are all done on the tablets at this point in time.
Mhm.
The tablets have really become, you see our numbers actually growing. So previously they would have to put in, I'll use it law library, for example, they would have to use a slip to put in a request time for law library. Now the tablet has almost become a tool for them to just text it to the law library that, hey, put me on the list. So a lot of these numbers reflect them, even for case management, a lot of them are asking questions like, it's not really a true grievance. They're requesting to see their case manager. So can you add me to the list to be seen this week? So that's where you see most of the requests. That's what they are. They're just asking a question or requesting something. When they don't like the answer that they are given from that request, that's when it would then turn into a grievance level. And then it goes through additional steps.
Okay, so I guess what I really want to know, what percentage of grievances do you receive in reference to personnel?
I don't have that
You don't
number
have
with
that
me. I'd
number.
have to break that down for you. And I was just speaking with the warden. If you'd like for next month's presentation, I could do subcategories of all these and kind of give you summaries of the breakdown of which each grievance is for.
I'd appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Understanding the page. So I see 1264 in terms of the number of grievances in that table, but then it says 632 elsewhere.
I'm
I'm sorry, what are you looking at?
So at the top, it says 632, facility receives 632 grievances. Sean, can we remove that, the wording that's, but I think it at
Yes.
the bottom of the table, it says 1264, but
The last column that says move to grievances,
Mhm.
that totals 632. And that's for the 88%.
Well, those are percentages on the right? The grievances number says 1264. I'm just trying to make sure I understand what the slide's saying.
So the way it works is the incarcerated person has a tablet, right? and they put a request for information, right? Within the request for information, within the request for information, it might go to whichever department. It can be case management, it can be medical, can be so and so. When the let's say it goes to case management, the case manager answer it, right? If once the case manager answer it and the IP is satisfied with it, then they'll stop here. Other the individual wants to go and see the case manager, and the case manager puts on the list, and he or she sees the case manager. Or it might be requesting the court date or anything, or whatever issue. That if they're not satisfied with their level, it goes to a level 1 grievance. That's when it turns to a grievance. Or if the case manager did not answer the request for information. Then on the level 1 grievances, it goes to the case manager supervisor, Mr. Hannigan, who will review it and answer the incarcerated person need. Now, if the incarcerated person is not satisfied with his answer, then it goes to level grievance. So it goes to me, and then I'll review it, and then I will address the issue and resolve it.
Now, I'm looking at 71% grievances in reference to housing. Are there any requests for the roommates to be removed or for them to be removed?
I haven't really seen any.
So for housing, can you explain that to me? Because that's a pretty high number.
So they do want, oh, I'm sorry. So for the housing units, a lot of times they do want more rec time. They don't lock TV on later, that type of thing is what you see. Or they'll ask for blankets or cleaning supplies and those types of things. It's not usually in reference to IPs versus IPs, that they want to be moved or problems with IPs. They don't discuss that in there. They will put in there if, you know, hey, we don't like this officer or something to that effect, and they all go to a sergeant level. The housing units actually go to a lieutenant level, then the captain and majors.
Okay, so what you're saying is if they have a grievance in reference to personnel, it's in that 71%?
It would be, but it's not common to have employee grievances in there. It's rare. I'm not saying it'll never happen, but there are some, but not many.
And for security staff.
Right. Well, I was talking in the housing unit, they're not there.
It's got to be a root somewhere. So I'm looking at the high incidence rates and trying to figure out where it fits in here.
So that would be in security staff at the bottom.
Because I think it'd be good, you know,
To
between now and
summarize
next
and
month
do
to
some categories.
understand a little bit more
Or-
what's in here. And then again, I'm still confused about the number because I see
Yeah, I think
I see
actually that was,
1264 and then I see
I
632.
think that was my mistake when I was doing the chart. I used the number from the first quarter and it actually is wrong. 652 I copied over instead of the 744. So that number should have been 744.
What number should be 744?
And look at the other graph,
Yep.
the last column with the
Q4
blue, that's
2024.
what that number should have been.
That says Q4 2024 though.
Oh, I'm sorry. There it is. It is right. Q1 2025, 632.
Yeah, and I'm trying to relate that number to the 1264 you have adding up the table. So it's weird that it's actually happens to be exactly twice the number. So I don't want to belabor this, but I think it'd be good to
I'll double check
understand
it.
this a bit more.
And actually, the more I'm thinking about it, just because some of the grievances, maybe I'll share the information with the warden and she could do that in executive session to break that down for you.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Any other question? Thank you. Can I show Mr. Administrator?
Good evening, members of the board and the public. Thank you for the opportunity to share reentry program updates for the month of March. Grant-funded programs updates. The First Step Workforce Development Program is our 4-week course taught by community service provider EDSI. Cohort 23 concluded on March 6th, and 4 men successfully completed the course. Cohort 24 began on March 10th, and 7 men signed up for the course. Additionally, in March, 3 women enrolled in the program and are meeting with a career coach and a behavioral health advocate weekly. We will continue to enroll women and have them work individually with staff until we have enough to facilitate a cohort. And on the right of the slide, we have a picture of cohort 24 on Community Resource Day. The picture includes EDSI's program coordinator, career coach, instructor, community outreach and engagement specialist. Each cohort has a community resource session to represent the support the program offers after release. The bottom left of the slide is an advertisement from the EDSI and Career Link Job Fair that was held on March 24th. The advertisement is included to showcase that 5 first step graduates received an employment offer at the job fair. Workforce Development and Education Administrator Joan Skursky attended the job fair and in collaboration with EDSI will launch George W. Hill's 2nd annual job fair on April 24th. We are currently in week 11 of New Leash on Life, another grant-funded program. For any new viewers, New Leash on Life is a 6-month intense reentry program. Participants in the program spend the first 12 weeks living and working with shelter dogs while completing workshops in dog training, basic animal care, life skills, and career readiness. The second half of the program is spent in the community where participants engage in weekly client services and paid internships to support their long-term success. And the dogs will have hopefully found their forever home through the New Leash on Life adoption process. In the month of March, the women participated in 5 basic animal care classes, 4 dog training classes, 5 job readiness classes, and 4 life skills classes. Grant funding will support New Leash on Life for the next 2 years and will serve 72 participants in 6 total cohorts. And right in the middle, you see a picture with some of our participants and Banana, and also the vet tech, Gianna. Gianna conducts classes with the women twice a week. Our third reentry grant-supported program is Delaware County Reentry Program, also referred to as Public Health Management Corporation, or PHMC. PHMC staff collaborates with participants to develop an individualized reentry plan. Participants meet with a peer specialist and reentry case manager bi-monthly. Service continues 60 days post-release. And enrollment is open to any Delaware County resident, regardless of charge. And in an effort to enhance opportunity, the service is open to those serving a Delaware County probation. In the month of March, 4 parolees and 1 incarcerated person accepted service. Additional reentry updates for the month of March. Delaware County Veterans Military Affairs Department engaged with 2 participants. Thresholds decision-making course had 10 participants. Probation and parole liaisons ordered 63 releases to inpatient treatment. The Boys Council, which is our program for our juvenile population, had 3 participants and 3 sessions for the month. Widener University professor facilitated 1 financial literacy workshop with 12 participants, and 1 opiate workforce recovery workshop was facilitated with 27 participants. Thank you. Can I answer any questions?
I just had a question on the New Leash on Life.
Yes.
Is there a plan for another class, or are you waiting to see how this class does, or what is the plan?
We're very excited to announce the next class will start probably a month after this cohort, and they'll continually be evolving for over the next 2 years.
And you're gonna monitor how they do when they're, like, when they finish the 12 weeks, and the second 12 weeks is
Yeah.
out in the community, you're gonna monitor how they do in the 12 weeks and report back on that. I know it's a new program, but.
Absolutely. New Leash on staff will stay with the participants for 3 months after their internship, and they will continue to provide updates to us, which we can then provide updates to the board.
I also wanted to add that while the MOU has not been finalized, Drexel University has been a longstanding partner with New Leash on Life and their work in the Philadelphia prisons. We've already had introductory meetings and we will be completing an MOU. They will be doing analysis of this population versus the stagnant, or unserved population within the institution and be providing us with some updates in the future. And so, of course, we will be sharing that with the board. This is actually the first initiative, and it came with the grant funding opportunities that were secured by Congresswoman Scanlon's office, that we will have real research and data being analyzed to determine the efficacy of this program. And so
Are you sticking with the female population or is it being expanded into the male population?
we're going to be expanding not just the total number of participants each cohort, but we have a strong desire to not switch just to the males, but to be alternating. And as we onboard another program, which is branching up a horticultural landscaping program, we'll be alternating. So if the men are being served by that program, the women will be served by New Leash. And then we will switch just to really make sure that we have representation throughout the population.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the podium, Pat O'Connor, Program and Mental Health and Substance Use Administrator.
So the clicker's the right range.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name's Pat O'Connor. I am the Substance Abuse Mental Health Administrator here at George W. Hill. It's my honor to be here before everybody this evening, so thank you for the opportunity. I've been asked to share a little bit about my experience with you. So I just want to give a very quick overview. I have 35 years of experience working in correctional programs. I spent 6 years as an officer in the state of Delaware. That was 100 years ago, I might add. However, in my experiences, I worked for a nonprofit and I was director of treatment programs at SCI Chester for quite a long time with the nonprofit, director of Maryland programs, also for treatment programs with 4 state prisons and a county jail. And I was also the director of a Philadelphia program that had a licensed inpatient, a licensed outpatient, a licensed partial hospitalization program, and a community corrections component. But it's my pleasure this evening to speak a little bit about the programming we have to offer here at George W. Hill. My first program, I got to work the clicker. My first program is the PrEP program. It's the Prison Reentry Education Program, PrEP 1. This is an 8-week drug and alcohol program that meets 3 days a week for 1.5 hours. This group focuses on educating the incarcerated persons, of course, on addiction and addictive behaviors. It's a comprehensive understanding, coping skills, relapse prevention, all kinds of encompassing addiction, addictive behaviors, and what we can do to pull ourselves out of it. The PrEP 2 program is a 12-week drug and alcohol program that also meets 3 days a week for 1.5 hours. This program is geared towards repeat offenders with an overall goal of addressing the cognitive, social, emotional needs of the criminal justice population. This program incorporates the 12 steps into the curriculum. To successfully complete PrEP 2, you must take a test, if you will, and pass it so that you can get your completion certificate. I want to mention a couple things about both programs. Both programs are open to the male and female population at George W. Hill. They can be court-ordered or anyone can enter the program voluntarily if they choose to. Of course, the males and the females are in separate groups. And the curriculum is all syllabus-based. that we follow for each program. We have a transient population, as you know, at George W. Hill. So Prep 1 is an open enrollment. It's a rolling admission. So as individuals complete, individuals enter into the program. Prep 2, however, is more of a closed program so that individuals come in and they can get the most of the 12-week program, the 12 steps that are reviewed, and the tests that they have to take before they come out. I also want to say something about the certificates. It may seem minor to some people that certificates are given, but we're working with individuals with addictions who perhaps may not have ever accomplished anything, so far in their lives. So these certificates mean a whole lot to individuals as they complete these programs. The other program we have is the anger management program. This is a 4-week program that meets twice a week for men. This is an 8-week program that meets once a week for the women. The difference with that is just the availability of space. That's all it is, right? Same curriculum, etc. This is also open to males and females, and this also can be court-ordered or can be attended voluntarily. Anger management is basically to learn how to manage your anger. In order to do that, you need to learn what anger is, the feelings that come with the anger that one may experience. It's to help develop self-control over thoughts and actions, stop violence or the threat of violence, if you will, and develop an understanding of their anger patterns and where their anger originated. If you watch little children, they'll watch their parents, and if the parents are always screaming and hollering, the kids are going to, everybody's going to be screaming and hollering at everybody. Where did they learn their anger habits, if you will? And how do we best learn how to control them? Next group I want to talk about is our sex offender program. This is a 20-week program that meets for twice a week for 1.5 hours. This is for those incarcerated persons who have committed a sex offense. This is a court-ordered program. The goal is for the incarcerated person to acknowledge and take responsibility for their offense. This is also to prevent future offending, address any underlying issues, and enhance self-regulation and foster victim awareness. Our CBT group. This is a 6-week program held twice a week for 1.5 hours. This one explores the relationship between feelings, thoughts, behaviors, how they all interact with each other. It helps our clientele understand and interpret their own perceptions of the events that may be occurring around them and how those events may strongly influence how they may feel and how they may act as these events unfold. This is really to help individuals identify and change negative thought patterns and behaviors. This also can be court-ordered and can be voluntary. The next slide is the demographics for the PrEP program for the first quarter, January, February, March, of course. We had 321 participants. We had 249 male and 72 female. Our drug of choice is the primary drug of choice, and it's all self-report. So heroin, opiates is 160 of the 320 involved in the programming. We have cocaine, crack cocaine as 45 individuals, 43 with meth, 25 alcohol, 23 marijuana K2, 17 PCP, 6 with benzos, and 2 with amphetamines. Ages. The breakout of ages is pretty comparable to what you saw earlier on the slide. We have 131 participants between the ages of 26 and 35. 93 participants were between the ages of 36 and 45. 54 participants, 46 and 55. 27 participants were between the ages of 18 and 25. And we had 16 participants that were over the age of 56. Our demographics on the bottom. The African-American, 134, Hispanic, 12, Caucasian, 165, and other were 10. These next slides break down this data in percentages. So males were 78%, females were 22%. The demography, 51%. You know what? I don't have color on my slide, so I can't even say them. 51% white, 42% Black. It was 4% Hispanic and 3% other. With the age range, you're going to see pretty much the breakout as I discussed previously. 41% is 26 to 35, 29% 36 to 45, 17% 46 to 55. We have 8%, which is 18 to 25, and 5%, which is 56 and up. Our last little slide here with our graph, our beautiful graph, is 50% opiate use. Then there's 14% with the crack cocaine. It was 13% with meth, 8% alcohol, 7%, I want to say marijuana, 5% PCP. Oh,
Sean,
I'm
can you
sorry.
advance the slide? I think we're.
Y'all have to remind me about the clicker. I'm a little slow with
No
the
worries.
clicker over here. Thank you. And just PCP 5%, benzos 2%, and amphetamines 1%. Oh, that's okay. We're fine. Thank you. This next slide, I think, is extremely important because as we talk about substance use disorders, it's also important to talk about building relationships with community partners, right? So we have a transient population who is eventually going to be getting out into the communities, right? And we want to be sure that they have some community resources available to them so they can continue, whether it's in MAT protocols or perhaps they need somewhere to live or they need to go to inpatient or outpatient programming. We're building the relationships with community partners so that each individual in our substance use programs is aware of these community resources, has all the information available to them about the community resources, and we can connect them before they leave the jails to help them be as successful as possible as they re-enter the community. I want to say that several of these community partners have come into the institution. They've met with the substance abuse counselors. They've met with the case managers. And separately, they've come in and they've met with the participants in the programs as well, so that they have a name with a face, what that program has to offer, et cetera, so that they can see for themselves what's best for them as they continue on their journey, if you will, to sobriety and recovery. I also, while we're here, I want to do a special shout out to Lori Ackerman, who is the discharge planner for WellPath. She and I work hand in hand with really trying to get individuals into either it's a bed or a community resource prior to release, again, to help them be as successful as possible prior to that release. The next slide is trainings. I want to talk a little bit about trainings. I want to give a big shout out to Delaware County Health Department. Miss Alex came to the facility and facilitated a Narcan training with the security staff in December of 2024. And then we had Bruce Schaefer from ACG Group come and facilitate a Narcan training with the incarcerated persons in February of 2025. This is really important because it's just to educate everybody on Narcan, what it's used for, how important it is in preserving life, right? And as we all know, we distribute Narcan as individuals are released from our facility. So it's important that they know what it is, why it's important to take it with them when they leave, et cetera. Right? But a big shout out to the individuals who came in and did the trainings. The next little piece is that Miss Jones is one of our substance abuse counselors, and myself, we attended a recent substance use disorder technical parole violator training at the Department of Corrections, Pennsylvania Department of Corrections. We went up because we wanted to hear what their programming is for technical parole violators. And they went over a program that they are using, which is a 10-week program, 3 times a week for 60 minutes each, right? An individual and homework assignments for the technical parole violators that are coming in back to the jail, if you will. But it has a different flavor to it. It really, really focuses on if they're on MAT, the MAT protocols, what they need to look like and why they need to look that way, right? Coping skills, stress management, relationship building, et cetera, right? For the parole violators, because what's bringing them back, right? A lot of it's stress, a lot of it's not reporting. You know, sometimes it's just simple things that bring individuals back to jail. Anything that we can do to help individuals be successful and stay out of jail in the community, you know, and be productive citizens, we really are looking forward to doing and incorporating into our programs. The last thing is the substance abuse staff are scheduled to attend the annual security training this month. This is important, and I just wanted to add it because working in a correctional facility, you never want to get complacent, right? So it's important that everybody attend that training, whether you're a counselor or whatever your role may be in the facility. In closing, if I may, I would like to give a shout out to the substance abuse staff, Ms. Hillary Jones, counselor, Mr. Bernard Burno, counselor, Ms. Lynn Robertson, counselor, and to our mental health coordinator, who's a licensed social worker, Ms. Josephine Barron. They do a heck of a job all the time, every day, and I'm grateful for them. Thank you. Any questions?
I have one.
Sure.
I'm not sure if it should be addressed to you or to the warden. It's not that deep. I was looking at the anger management classes, and I was wondering if the issues or the offenders or incidents, I think that's the word that we use, are those people required or encouraged to take the anger management classes?
No. So the anger management courses, and you don't have to walk away, tend to be more relational in terms of their community relations. And, but we had discussed this very recently, and I think that it's appropriate that we let the public know that the board is always asking questions, learning more about programs and services that are offered in the facility, and evaluating trends of different circumstances in the agency as well. And I think you very pointedly asked for individuals who tend to demonstrate, I'll say, maladaptive behaviors in the institution. What additional resources or supports are we providing them? And so typically those persons end up in a restrictive housing setting, which is a punitive measure within the institution in which they are deprived from additional privileges, never rights, but privileges that are in the institution. And they are rounded on by mental health staff, so not necessarily Pat's team, but from the healthcare services department, routinely and regularly, both by nursing as well as their mental health staff. They could potentially be involved in programs, and then they're going to very creatively find ways to make sure that that is not disrupted, particularly if they are court stipulated. But it is an interesting point of for persons who continue to demonstrate behaviors of conduct that are harmful to themselves and the overall agency, what can we be doing to target those behaviors? And so I've not yet talked with the team in ways that we can do that. I will say this. She gave a shout out to her department. What is not known is those numbers. I mean, I don't know if you were counting, that's 3 substance counselors, 3. Pat, and a mental health coordinator, and they're achieving that level of engagement within the population. If we're going to increase services for her department, we need to increase resources to match that. And so that's the only caveat that I offer. It's never that we don't have a desire to do more within the agency. It's what are we capable of doing with the resources that are provided. And so I think evaluating these things are the direction we want to continue to move towards, but also recognize that we may come with some additional personnel requests in the future to better support, because I certainly do not want to burn out Pat or any member of her team. They are wonderful. I consistently, when I'm meeting with the population, hear feedback of how genuine and empathetic her staff is as they're doing these psychoeducation programs or therapeutic measures. The population really connects to her team. They believe in the work that they do. They are very skilled and qualified, and they have a leader who supports them as much as she possibly can.
Perhaps it's something that you can consider.
I'm considering it.
Okay.
It's never a no. It's a, how do we figure this out and do it? And it might actually require some more funding, which is always a tricky thing within our budget. So
About a clinical psychiatrist, somebody that could deal with those triggers,
yes.
you know, that's below the surface. So that when people walk out the doors, they can be healed and released and be relieved of that torturing trigger that keeps coming up that makes them behave the way that they do. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, trauma is, trauma-informed care is something that is not just within the clinical side, but also within the training for correctional staff. That is very common. That is how a lot of our curriculum has shifted over the last decade, truly. Additionally, and I should say this, within WellPath, the board supported us making changes to that staffing matrix to better meet the needs and demands. And I was speaking with our health services administrator who just spoke 2 months ago or last month, I can't remember which one. And now that we've onboarded and filled some of the vacancies, Nina Chichula, who is both a psychologist and a nurse practitioner, she's been functioning more in a nurse practitioner role. And now that we have additional psychiatry on board, we'll be able to shift her more to the clinical psychology and doing more structured programming, counseling, and interventions with individuals. So I am always receptive and responsive and grateful for the engagement of the board, the questions that you ask, and the recommendations that you make. I wish that we could do them all instantaneously, but I hope that you will know that it is well received, very much appreciated that you guys care so deeply about the work that you do and your oversight duties, and that we will continue to be receptive and responsive.
And, I just chime in as a county council member who's responsible for the financial side of all this. The cost to run any corrections facility has really skyrocketed in the last couple of years, and it certainly has here as well in terms of the cost to get people to work in such environments, the infrastructural costs that we've had here. So that is the rub, right? And there's no coincidence that when we talk about some of the programs that we've added here, they are ones where we've been able to find non-Delaware County taxpayer funding. So I think we would all love to expand the resources we have, but understand that it bumps into the challenges that we face on a county budget where we had to increase the tax rate pretty significantly this year.
I understand.
Thank you. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll move on. Any new business or old business from council members, from board members? If not, we'll move to the second and final round of public comment. If there's anyone from the public who would like to address the board, please do so now. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes maximum, and please give your name and your municipality at the start of your comments.
Kimberly Brown Cowan. My first comment is about what Judge Peccaniato said, to change the environment at George W. Hill. Care, custody, and control is the motto. Care, tablets. I keep going around in circles about the tablets. On the county website, it states that every inmate gets a tablet. George W. Hill is the only facility whereas the inmates have control of the tablets. So when you know what happens when the inmates have control of the tablets, they like to sell the tablets. It's just a click on the button for the administration at George W. Hill needs to do, which they refuse to do, even after the inmate had got stabbed 4 times. The inmates doesn't have tablets. So therefore, when the inmates send a paper mail out to their family, they cannot see the paper mail returned back unless they have a tablet. An inmate is trying to have video visits with their family members, with their daughter, to be reunited with their daughter. He cannot because he doesn't have a tablet. The $25 comes out once a month. What happens to the rest of the months for the inmates that's injured? The phone calls is 5-minute free phone call only on Monday. What happens to the rest of the week? The food is not enough food. They get small portions like small kids. Control, there's no control in the jail. All the cell doors are broken. Riots are starting to happen. Drugs are starting to be passed. Where is the Narcan on the units? We keep going in circles about the tablets. The inmates are asking for the tablets. Judge Kroll, you asking about the dogs. At nighttime, where are the dogs being walked at? Where are they going to the bathroom at? There's no grass, there's concrete, there's no chemicals to clean up the feces from the dogs. If we're going to do a program, we're going to make sure that the dogs are taken care of. There's somewhere for the dogs to go. We need more programs. I'd like to give a shout out to Ms. Pat O'Connor. She just came up here, 35 years. She has 2 degrees. She don't really get the respect that's need to be given to her at the facility, but she do a great job. And her program is the only program that's effective at the jail. Thank you.
Any further public comment today? Hearing none. Any last board member comments for this evening?
I don't have a comment, but I'd like to ask the warden. I think it would be interesting to do as one of the presentations, something on the tablets. I think that's very interesting, and we talk about it all the time. It'd be great if someone could even bring one and talk about what kind of options and how the phone calls work, and address that issue about how people get them and who has them.
Excuse me, Ms. Brown, can you come back to the mic? And you mentioned quite a few things. And I'm trying to focus on some of the things that you had mentioned. And you said that the prison doors were broken, the cell doors were broken?
Yes, the majority of the cell doors in the jail has been broken. Always been broken since day one, since the county took over.
So are the inmates coming in and out at will?
Correct, yes.
I'll just interrupt. I think items that may be matters of security, I think are, probably not in a public forum. What I'd say is I would not necessarily take everything that's being said here to be 100% actual. Okay.
I work in the jail. There's reports, and when the county, before the county took over, there was an assessment, and it's printed out and it's on the county website, the assessment. I don't have nothing to hide. There's no pretty reason to lie. The jail oversight board is supposed to do a pop-up visit twice a year. When you come and do the visit, make sure you hit every unit in the jail. And make sure you wear a mask because you want to intake a lot of K2. So when you come, you'll see what I'm talking about. Thank you.
All right, any further questions or comments from board members for this evening? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Any opposed? We are adjourned.